Gopi Javarabha Devaraya Gopi Yashodanandana Yashodanandana Yamunatira Yamunatira Jaya Gornita 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 Jaya Gornita Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Srila Gopremanandi Hari Om Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paragajacharya Asatosa Sri Sriman ISKCON DDP founder Acharya Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Vishnupad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai Nam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kahosh Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaur Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Bhajamohan Namadam Ki Jai Shri Navadip Maya Prodam Ki Jai Shri Chal Jagannath Prodam Ki Jai Ganga Maya Ki Jai Jamuna Maya Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Shri Tulsi Mahani Ki Jai Shri Shri Gaurnitai Ki Jai Smahaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Going back to home, back to Godhead Ki Jai ISKCON Bangalore Yatra Ki Jai Brihan Badanga Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai International Food for Life Transcendental Prasadam Distribution Ki Jai Sri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Gaur. All glories to the Assembly devotees, all glories to the Assembly devotees, all glories to the Assembly devotees, all glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga Guru Sri Prabhupada. Do we have a Wi-Fi signal here? Which one is it? Prashant. Prashant. I think this one. I don't know. If you just hit the return key, whenever it says OK, it's hit the return. It's still looking. Doesn't seem to be connected. No, it should be. Yeah, the password wasn't correct. That's the problem. Yeah. Hare Krishna. So I'm very happy to accept your invitation to speak this morning. Does everybody understand English, or do we need translation? Everybody. Okay. So I'm going to start with a question. Why do we chant Jai Radha Madhava before we speak? Okay? Nobody knows? No, you know.
One thing, two answers come to my mind. That first is because Srila Prabhupada.
That's the only answer. There's no other answer. We chant Jayarada Madhava before speaking because Srila Prabhupada did it. And this is the whole point of you being trained. You're being trained in the Prabhupada method. Nowadays, there's so many methods, and AI is taking over everything. But you don't need AI to understand that ISKCON means whatever Prabhupada did, that's what we do. This is his movement. Now, we are part of the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, in which Lord Chaitanya appeared. So, ISKCON is one branch of Lord Chaitanya's spiritual tree. But just as when you examine any tree, in general, India is a green zone. When I travel all over India. There's greenery a lot more than many other countries. But here locally, you don't see too many trees. You're seeing more hotels and gas stations, and they're cutting down the trees. But in most other places, they have high respect for trees. If there's a tree in the way, they build around it. They don't cut it down. So that's very good. That's a pious mentality. But if you examine any tree, you will not find any two branches that are exactly alike. Any branch of a tree, no matter which height, they are not exactly alike. They're connected to the same trunk, to the same tree, but they're different. So the point, and the reason why I'm telling you this is because ISKCON is a particular branch of Lord Chaitanya's spiritual tree. So when you go out into the world, some people are trying to make ISKCON to be like their branch. But don't be surprised by that or distracted by that. ISKCON is a particular branch of Lord Chaitanya's spiritual tree. And the methodology, the activities, the goals of this particular branch are set by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami. So you will go out in the world and some people say, well, ISKCON came after Gaudiya Math, said they should do things the way this month does it. No. Srila Prabhupada specifically left the Gaudiya Math because they were not doing what their Guru Maharaj told them. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, upon my departure, I don't want any acharyas. I want a governing body to govern the society. They did not do that. As soon as he left, they went to court. Somebody grabbed this mat, somebody grabbed that mat. Somebody said this person is the next acharya. So my point is, if you've come to the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, you have to come with that mentality. That you're here to be trained in the Prabhupada method. Whichever way Prabhupada did things, that's the way you should follow. Don't try to mix that, I'm in the ISKCON, but this other organization does this, why don't we do it like that? No, don't have that. Please be fixed in the mindset that you're here to be trained to do things the way Srila Prabhupada did them. And to understand the philosophy the way Srila Prabhupada explained it. You take any verse in the Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita, somebody may explain it differently. But we take Srila Prabhupada's explanation. And we can see, those of us who met him personally, and even those who didn't, you can see the potency of this particular representative of Lord Chaitanya. When Prabhupada went to the West, there were already several hundred versions of Bhagavad Gita in English, but there was not one Krishna Bhakta. Nobody became a devotee of Krishna by reading those books. But when Srila Prabhupada came to the West and he gave Bhagavad Gita as it is, practically immediately, devotees came forward. So he's specifically empowered, referred to as more Senapati Bhakta, that general that's been empowered by Lord Chaitanya to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. And you see, he did that. He did that. Without any compromise. When Prabhupada went to the West, there were persons from other organizations advising him, you're in the West, don't wear dhoti kurta, dress shirt, tie, and pants like they do. And, you don't have to be so strict about eating veg. These people, they eat non-veg, it's okay, you can do it. Prabhupada said, no, I'm not here to take from them, I'm here to give. I'm here to give them. I'm here to give them Krishna consciousness. So this is your mission. You've joined the mission of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness to be trained in the Prabhupada method, and that should be your goal, to go out in the world and teach others exactly what you've learned. But if you don't learn properly from the right source, how are you going to share? What are you going to teach? Yes, just like any science, if you're interested in physics or chemistry or mathematics, there's so many institutions you can go to and learn. But generally, why do we pick one institution over another? Why IIT instead of some other institution? Because they have a reputation of having good teachers, good instructors. So this is the same in the spiritual field. You can learn about Gaudiya Vaishnavism from so many places. But we come to ISKCON because we want to learn from this teacher. I'm saying this very emphatically because as you grow in Krishna consciousness, there will be more and more opposition from other so-called spiritual groups, even so-called Gaudiya Vaishnava groups. They will try to tell you that, yeah, you got some of it, but other things we can give you that he didn't give. No, Prabhupada gave everything. Prabhupada gave everything. So please don't be confused by that. You learn from Srila Prabhupada, learn from those who learn from Srila Prabhupada, and your future will be very, very bright. Now, nobody told me that we were going to be doing a particular it just said based on the teachings, but I see that you have chapter 6 from 7th canto, right?
I have taken from this 7th canto.
Yeah, this is not somewhere. This is stuck. Okay, I'll have to start over. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah, it's not working. Okay, my computer froze. Just another indication that things are not perfect here in the material world. No, I'll start over. It should be okay. Anyway, we're going to be speaking about the importance of youth being trained. You're all not exactly the same age as Prahlad Maharaj, but you have to start somewhere, right? When I joined this movement in New York in 1973, I was 21 years old, and most of my colleagues were about the same age. But it doesn't matter what age you start. It doesn't matter. When the teaching, the philosophy is the same. All right, one second. Let me just. All right, so while computer's booting up, okay. All right, so we're going to be hearing some realized knowledge from Prahlad Maharaj in the 7th canto. I saw when I came in that chapter 6 was on the board, so on the screen, so let's bring that up. All right. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam deving saraswatim vyasam tatho jayamutiraya. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our rare means of conquest, let us offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vasudeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, who is the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Presho Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regularly attending the Srimad Bhagavatam class and by rendering service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, whose worship with transcendental songs becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 So we're reading from the 7th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is entitled The Science of God, and this is chapter 6. Prahlad instructs his demoniac schoolmates. So why is it that Prahlad was able to instruct others in the science of Krishna consciousness? Because he heard from a proper source. So later on he will state what are the 9 processes of devotional service. Everybody should know. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Bandhanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. But the very next verse you should also learn, is very important. He says, Iti Pungsarpata Vishnu Bhaktischan Navalakshana Kreta Bhagavat Yadda Tanmanyedata Uttamam. He says, anyone who practices these 9 processes, or even just one of them, I consider to be the most intelligent person. So you're all intelligent young men, but the proof of your intelligence will be if you stick to this Bhagavad Dharma, this devotional path. And as we were stressing last night, it's not just devotion, it's devotional service. Because many people claim to be devoted. They're devoted to Lord Shiva, they're devoted to Ganesh, they're devoted to Ma, Durga, they're devoted even to Krishna. But there has to be service. That's the proof of your devotion. As we were also discussing last night, that many people say again that they're devoted to Lord Shiva, but Lord Shiva is the topmost Vaishnava, but they're not Vaishnavas. So if you're devoted to the topmost Vaishnava, you should be a Vaishnava. But if you go to them and preach Vaishnavas, they think, no, we're Shaivites. What does that mean? A Shaivite, a follower of Lord Shiva, should be a Vaishnava, because Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu. Lord Shiva is the topmost Vaishnava. So if you're actually a follower of Lord Shiva, then you have to be a Vaishnava also, but they don't get that. Why? Because they have material desires. They approach Lord Shiva for fulfillment of material desires, not for spiritual advancement. And Lord Shiva is known as Ashutosh. He's very easily pleased. Very easily pleased. But we know from the example of one Brikasura that even though they worship Lord Shiva because they have ulterior motives, ultimately they try to harm Lord Shiva himself. You've heard that pastime of Brikasura, right? He wanted to be powerful. He wanted to be a topmost demon. So he worshipped the best of Vaishnavas, Lord Shiva, asking for benediction. And when Lord Shiva was not coming, he started to cut his own flesh and put in the fire. So Lord Shiva, being compassionate, what do you want? Stop. What do you want? So he told Lord Shiva, I want a benediction that anybody's head that I touch, it will crack and they will die. Just see the kind of benediction so-called worshipper of Lord Shiva is asking for. Do any of you here want such a benediction? No, because you're Vaishnavas. You don't want that. You want to help people. You don't want to kill them. Prabhupada said, in previous ages, yes, the Vaishnavas were powerful, so they could go around and say, do you accept Krishna as God? And if no, they can kill you. But in Kali Yuga, that's not the method. That's not the method. The method is, please chant Hare Krishna. That's all this is the essence of preaching. One of Prabhupada's early disciples, Malati Devi Dasi, she had a daughter. And this daughter, when she was very young, She used to, 3 years old, she would ask any visitor, do you know who Krishna is? And if they would say no, she said, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Prabhupada was very pleased. He said, preaching finished, boss. That's it. Just find out if they know who Krishna is. If they don't know, then tell them Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. End of preaching. However, the best way to get somebody to understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead is to get them to take one of Prabhupada's books. Because if you read Bhagavad Gita as it is, that's all that's in there. Krishna declares himself to be God. Arjuna accepts him as God. Vyasadeva, Sanjaya, everybody accepts. Arjuna says later on, it's not just my opinion. All the great sages accept you as being God. So this is the whole purpose and message of Bhagavad Gita. But still, we have many people, again, from other camps, specifically the Mayavadis. Some of them know Gita better than you do. They know all 700 shlokas. But they don't accept that Krishna is God. They think that beyond Krishna there is some unmanifest spiritual entity. So unless one hears from a pure devotee of Krishna, it's not possible to get the real essence of spiritual knowledge. So Prahlad Maharaj, he heard from Narad Muni. So he knew perfectly well, even before birth. He understood this Bhagavad knowledge. So now he's passing on that knowledge to his classmates. Komara Pragyo Dharma Bhagavata Hita. Durlabam Manasam Janma Tanapya Dhruvam Artanam. He says, from Komara, means from the age of 5 years old. Komar Archaya Pragyo Dharma Bhagavata Iha. One should be trained in this science of Krishna consciousness. And it's quite possible. It's not that, because the living entity is eternal. So the living entity in a 5-year-old human body is no younger than the living entity in a 50-year-old human body or a 500-year-old. Prabhupada said when he was here that still in the Himalayas, there are some yogis that are 300, 400, 500 years old. But what do they do with that so much experience? You see, sometimes they go to Kumbh Mela, and because they've been around a long time, they expect to be honored. They should take the first snan, the first bath, and if anybody dares to go in before them, you could get a trident in your chest. So even though they've been around for hundreds of years, they still haven't learned Chinadapi Sunichena, Atorapi Sahishana, Amanina Manadena, Kirtani Sinahari. One has to chant, one has to hear and chant in a humble state of mind. We have to be in a humble state of mind. It's not possible to make tangible advancement if one doesn't come to this point. One has to be humble, understanding full well that we are under complete control. It's just a question of who do you want to be controlled by? Do you want to be controlled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His representatives, or do you want to be controlled by His external energy, Mahamaya? But in every instance, the Jiva soul is controlled. We're being controlled. While we're in material consciousness, contaminated material consciousness, we have a strong aversion to authority. We don't like anybody to be an authority over us. And that begins at home. As soon as a child is a little bit independent, can walk, can talk, most of the time they say no. You ask them to do something, no. So that tendency to be oppositional, to be uncooperative, begins early in life. Early in life. Because that's why we're here. As conditioned souls, every one of us wants to be numero uno, as they say in Spanish. We want to be number one. We don't want anybody over us. That's why we're here in this material world. We want to experience what it's like to be number one. Sometimes people ask, if the spiritual world is perfect, why would we leave? Why would you leave perfection? Why would we leave perfection? And the answer is you have to understand clearly, because sometimes even we become confused about this idea. Free will. You have free will eternally. If you don't have free will, then you're like a robot. Some of you may already be studying robotics. So even that robot has a controller, right? There's some controller chip that was designed and built by a human being, programmed by a human being. In every sphere of life, this is another thing you have to understand clearly, because you're all being scientifically trained. So the tendency is to think that whatever the scientists say must be true. It's not true. It's not a fact. Everywhere we see in life, there is conscious planning, conscious execution, conscious design. But somehow they want us to believe that this entire Jagat, universe, came about by accident. And by random combination, we have all the complexity that we have now. Just from a material, intellectual perspective, it doesn't make sense. Because again, our daily experience is that everything has to be planned. This program had to be planned. Somebody had to invite the speaker. Somebody had to invite all of you. The prasadam is planned. The deity worship is planned. Everything is planned. And if you don't follow the plan, somebody will tell you, hey, you got it wrong. You're supposed to offer the incense 7 times and you only did it 3 times. I was watching you. So in every aspect of life, there's planning, there's execution, there's decision making. But some or other we are supposed to accept that this entire Jagat came about by accident. And by random combination, now we have all this complexity that we have. Absolutely not. This building, I studied civil engineering. This building, down to the last nail, down to the last tile, everything is planned. And again, if the workers get it wrong, one misexecution, they didn't align something properly, there's some supervisors say, hey, you got that wrong here. Take it down and start over and build it properly. So the universe is like that. The whole universe is like that. It's a consciously planned and executed phenomenon. It's not some accidental phenomenon. It's completely planned. And part of that plan is to give us the opportunity to exercise our free will. And the reason why there's so much conflict in the world is because everybody, again, wants to be number one. Nobody wants to be told what to do. The Iranians don't want to be told by the Americans that you can't build a nuclear bomb. You have a nuclear bomb. Who are you to tell us not to have a nuclear bomb? So at every step of life, from within your own family, and then the community, and then the state, and then the country, and then the society, the planet, the whole universe, there's conflict all over because nobody wants to be told what to do. But an intelligent person inquires, if there was intelligent, conscious planning and execution, why don't I approach that person who planned the whole thing? Why spend a whole lifetime trying to figure it out, and I may get it wrong, not may, you will absolutely get it wrong. For instance, in the field of zoology, biology, those fields, there are persons, literally, you know, I'm not making it up, who spend their whole life studying spiders. How many types of spiders are there, and you know what their capabilities are. Some of them, they get their food by making a big web and they whatever is trapped, and some of them they actively hunt, they go out. They spend their whole life studying spiders because they don't understand. Whatever you think about at the last moment of your life, that's what you're going to be placed in your next life. So if you spend your whole life studying spiders, and even then, it's just speculation. They don't know how many. But we don't waste our time in this way. We learn from the scriptures. We accept what the scriptures say. So what do the scriptures say about varieties of life on this planet? Everybody should know this verse. Jalaja Navalakshani Stavara Laksharinsati Krimayo Rujo Sankyaka Pakshina Dashalakshana Chingsha Lakshani Pashiva Chatur Lakshani Manasha. But that's it. We accept this one verse and we know how many species are there. We don't have to spend our whole life studying spiders and birds and sharks and this and that. We just accept. Jalaja Navalakshani. Those who take birth in water, 9 lakhs, 900,000. The bucks. You don't, not 901, not 899, 900,000. So somebody can spend their whole life in some oceanography, studying oceanography, or they still won't come to the right conclusion. But by accepting, Jalaja, those who take birth in water, Navalakshani, 9 lakhs. Stavara Lakshavikshati. Stavara means those who can't move, like trees, creepers, plants. They're alive. They're alive, but they're fixed. Lakshavikshati. Lakshavikshati means how many? 20 times 100,000. $2 million. 20 times 100,000. So again, we don't have to do research. Like recently I saw on YouTube, there was one scientific study. Because even though it's obvious that anything that is alive has some degree of consciousness, they don't understand that. So they're studying and they're blown away by this one little fish. It's called a cleaner wrasse. You may have seen. The big fish, they come into a cleaning station, and these little cleaner wrasse, they go into the gills, they go into the mouth, they clean, they take all the particles, and that's their job, and that's how they make their living. They get their food. So they were studying these cleaner wrasse, and they were blown away how intelligent they are. They know if they are too aggressive, then this fish won't come back again. So they try to be just gentle enough, and they're obviously conscious, they're intelligent, they're planning the whole thing. They set up a station and then the big fish come in. So everywhere, again, there's intelligence. We don't have to be convinced of that. But these foolish so-called scientists, they give themselves Nobel Prizes for this and that, but they don't understand the very basics. It's like starting a huge mathematical calculation with a mistake. Doesn't matter how good you are at math. If the first calculation is wrong, then the whole thing is wrong. So their first miscalculation is that life comes from matter. So whenever you meet these big brains and they say you guys are just, brainwashed religionists, you don't understand how science works, then you ask them, where does conscious, how do insentient, unconscious elements create a conscious byproduct? You tell them, we'll give you as much of the raw material as you want. Hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, as much as you want. Now you go into a lab and you make one living creature. You can't do it. It's not possible, because life doesn't come from any material source. Life comes from life. We made one small book with that title. I don't know if you have it in your language. Life comes from life. Yeah. So you should be convinced of that because again, you're all scientifically trained. So unfortunately, you have some trace of faith in these scientists. Why do we have faith in the scientists? Because they give us rocket ships, they give us television. But I always say the best thing they ever invented, the one thing that it would be hard for me to do without, washing machine. That's it. Everything else they can take away. But washing machine, because without a washing machine, you have to go to some water source, you have to bend down and then wash. Washing machine, just throw it in there and turn it on, wash, finish. Everything else, completely unnecessary. Not necessary. They're so proud, especially of the automobile. Very proud of having created automobiles. Some of which can go 200 miles an hour. When I was in Chennai on this trip, there's one East Coast road runs along the coast. And one morning early, we were going to one spot, Mahabalipuram. Some of you may have been there. So early in the morning, because we want to get there before sunrise. So early in the morning, that road is pretty empty. And one guy must have been a very wealthy guy, because you could see there was a security vehicle following. So he's driving his Lamborghini, because it's the only time of day when he can go fast. So we're very proud. We make automobiles that can go 200 kilometers, 200 miles an hour. But generally, you can't drive 200 miles an hour. So the joke is that in the Middle Ages, in Paris, other European cities, traffic by bullock cart was moving at 3 kilometers an hour. And nowadays, with your $200,000 Lamborghini, you're moving same speed, 3 kilometers an hour. So what is the use of your big inventions? They're so proud again. They're so proud of, again, rocket ships going up, but almost every third one blows up. So we have a saying in English, if you're trying to teach somebody something, you say, it's not rocket science, you should be able to understand. But apparently rocket science is very complicated, because literally every third rocket they send out blows up. One little mistake. Sometimes just a little gasket that was not installed properly. So the point is, don't be enamored, don't be blinded by so-called science. It's speculation, especially when they start dabbling in origins. Yes, they can make a nice car that goes very fast, even though you can't go fast in this traffic. Very proud of that. But when they start talking about origins, where life comes from, as soon as somebody makes that statement, that means they don't understand that life is eternal. So this is the first lesson in the Bhagavad Gita. After Arjuna puts forward his arguments, why he didn't want to fight, and then finally he surrenders to Krishna, Shishya Steham Sarvimam Papandam, and what does Krishna say? Natvevaham jatinasam natvam neme jnaripa. Sarvevayam atakparam. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor any of these kings, nor in the future will any of us cease to be. So this is a clear definition of what is eternality. Always existed in the past, existing now, and will always exist in the future. So a Lamborghini or this table is not eternal, because it was not existing a few years ago. And it was created, and we know it's not going to last forever. No material phenomenon lasts forever. Even this planet at one point wasn't here. And periodically, once in a day of Brahma, when Brahma goes to sleep, there's a partial devastation, and then when Brahma leaves this body, then the entire universe is inundated and destroyed. So, but life is eternal. So this is what Prahlad is teaching, beginning at that point. Komaram archayat pragyo dharmam bhagavat durlabham manasam janma tadapya juvam artana. Even though this material, external human form is temporary, just like any car or any building that we create, it's temporary, but it can give the highest reward if we're trained in Bhagavad Dharma. If we're trained in Bhagavad Dharma. So again, and not just being trained in Bhagavad Dharma as coming from this particular representative of Krishna. When Prabhupada established his temples, he didn't allow any of his god brothers in the Gaudiya Math to come and preach, give class in any of his temples. So he asked his disciples, why am I not allowing them to come? He said, because if they tell you one thing different from what I've told you, you'll be confused. So as Prabhupada, we give respect to everybody. And Vaishnava respects even the ant. You know the story of Mrigari, the hunter. He was one day in our Munis going through the forest, and he sees so many animals flopping in pain. They're pierced with arrows, but they're not dead. They're flopping in pain. So he follows the trail, and he comes to this hunter, Mrigari. His name actually means, Mriga means animal, and Ari means enemy. So he's actually the enemy of the animals, Mrigari. So Narmuni asked him, what are you doing? Well, this is my living. I kill animals for food and for taking their skin. So Narmuni said, well, why don't you kill them completely? He said, that's how my father trained me. We enjoy seeing them suffer. So Narmuni said, please stop. From now on, kill them completely. Actually, he didn't tell him stop. He said, do me a favor, kill them completely. Here's a Vaishnava. He's telling him to kill. Why? Because out of compassion, he doesn't want to see the animals suffering. So kill them. Don't leave them half dead. And then he preached to him and made him a devotee. But the main reason, or one of the reasons that Madari agreed to become a Vaishnava is because by his mystic potency, Narad Muni showed him that all these animals that you've been killing, they're waiting in subtle form. And when you die, they're going to attack you and tear you apart. So when he saw that, he realized karma is real. It's not just, theoretical presentation. This is how karma works. Whatever you do, it's going to produce a reaction. And there's a verse in the 10th canto that explains this very clearly. It says, Eka prasuyate jantur, eka esha paliyate. Eka onubhunte sukritam, eka esha cha duskritam. It says, Eka means one, alone. So it says every living entity is born alone, dies alone, and alone has to enjoy or suffer the reactions to their good and bad deeds. So this is very concise definition of karma. You're born alone, you're going to die alone, and alone you're going to have to enjoy or suffer the reactions to your good and bad deeds. So when we come to Krishna consciousness, we're being trained to come to the level of nice karma, where we're not producing any karma, good or bad. And how do we do that? By acting on the direction of and for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. When we do that, we don't produce any material karma, good or bad. Otherwise, everybody else, every single thing that they do, and actually even in previous ages, every thought, if you would think a bad thought, you would get karmic reaction. But in Kali Yuga, we're so weak-minded, we're excused what we're thinking. But if you continue to think bad thoughts, you're going to act in a bad way. So you have to be trained how to think properly, how to think in a devotional way. And in this way, you don't produce any karma, good or bad. Because even good karma, you have to come back to enjoy the results of your good karma. Come back, take birth again. But we don't want to take birth again. We want to go back to home, back to Godhead. No more birth in this material world. So this is Prahlad Maharaj's encouragement to his classmates. So the classmates may say, well, I want to be happy. And if I follow this path, am I going to be happy? He said, yes. Sukam ayete kam daitya, deha yogena dehina, sarvatra labhite daiva, tata sukam ayatnata. He said, just as, oh my dear friends, sons of the demons, just as your unhappiness comes without any invitation. You don't have to invite a toothache or headache or somebody attacking you on the street or car accident or something. Recently, one of my dear God brothers, Charu Das, I don't know if any of you have ever met him, just died in a car accident in the US. So, $8:15. Okay. All right. I'm getting my orders here. 8:15 class ends and 8:15 to 8:30 question. So yes, the young boys, they were intelligent. They said, we want to be happy. So what about our happiness? So Prahlad intelligently told them, he said, just as you don't have to invite unhappiness into your life, it just comes of its own cause. Again, toothache, headache, car accident, these things are coming. You don't go out one day and say, oh, please, somebody hit me. Last time I was in Bangalore, I stayed at Seshajapuram temple, and I'd gone for some walk I lost my reading glasses, so we took a walk to find a place where I could buy some more reading glasses. And on the way back to the temple, just on the main street there where the temple is located, some Mataji was on a two-wheeler coming in from the side street. In front of her, she had one child, behind her another child. When we see this, Americans here, we're like, oh my God, because in America you can't do that. You can't have a child on a two-wheeler, and especially with no helmet. So she came out of the side street, and somebody was coming from the main street, bam! So she didn't ask for that. She didn't wake up that morning and say, today I want to have an accident and have my children fall on the street and be injured. So just as the negative things come without invitation, similarly, your happiness will come. You don't have to make any special endeavor. Whatever happiness you're doing this lifetime, it'll come. It'll come. And if you're not really destined to have a particular type of happiness, just like everybody thinks nowadays, happiness means money, 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 accumulate as much money as possible, and then I will be happy. But in America, they have these lotteries where people buy a ticket and they can win some big amount of money. Sometimes the prize goes to 500 million, $1 billion, and people get very excited, they buy. So they've done a study that the vast majority of people who win the lottery, they again become poor. Because it was not their destiny to be rich in this lifetime. So they got a taste and then it was taken away. Why? Because they're not intelligent, unintelligent, and lusty. So the average unintelligent, lusty person, what do they do when they win money? They win $200 million, $300 million. They gather all the friends, they go to Las Vegas, gamble, drink, and within no time, you can burn through $200 million. And then the other extreme, people are miserly, they win $200 million, and they give it to me in cash and they put it on in the mattress. I don't trust the banks, I don't trust any investment advisor, give it to me in cash, and they put it on in the mattress. So they can sleep on it every night and feel, oh, I'm rich. But what is the use of that? You're not doing anything worthwhile with the money. And then there are some who are sub-intelligent, they invest some money in real estate, some money in a business, some money in like that. So a simple experiment that you can do, if you preach in colleges, you can ask the students, if I'm a crorepati, and I give every one of you in this room 1 crore of rupees, and then I come back in 1 year, will everybody have 1 crore? Yeah. By their karma, everybody will be different. Some will have practically nothing, just like in the Ambani family, we see, the Ambani brothers, because they couldn't work together. The younger brother, he took all of his money, and in no time, he lost it all. So somebody will be like that. You give them 1 crore, come back in 1 year, it's all gone. Somebody else, they will still have 1 crore, because they haven't spent even 1 rupee. And then others, like I said, they will make some intelligent decisions. They will maybe grow and double it even. So everybody's different. Why? Because everybody's karma is different. Everybody's born with a different mixture of the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. And based on that, they have a different level of intelligence that they employ. But the highest intelligence, Prabhupada defines intelligence in one purport in the Bhagavad Gita. Intelligence means knowing the difference between matter and spirit, and understanding the source or control of both. There is one person, Ishwar Parama Krishna, who's controlling everything, material energy, spiritual energy. So an intelligent person wants to take shelter of that Supreme Being. So this is what Prahlad did. Having heard from Narad Muni, he took complete shelter of Lord Nrsimhadev. And not just again in a passive way, in an active way. We want to serve the Lord. Otherwise, even when we become devotees, sometimes we want the Lord to serve us. Oh my Lord, this person is giving me a hard time, take care of him. Chindi, and chop him up. Like Prabhupada used to say, don't try to make God your order supplier. This is what most people do. They go to a mandir or a mosque or church, and they're praying to God. They believe in God, but they're praying, oh God, give us our daily bread, or oh God, give me 1,000,000 rupees, or oh God, let me pass my exams, or find me a good wife. Or, in other words, we want God to serve us. But the Vaishnavas, like Prahlad, they don't want that. When Nrsimhadev offered them all whatever benediction you want, he said, my Lord, he said, I'm born into the Demoniac family, so I have a natural tendency to be materialistic. So don't tempt me. All I want is the benediction that I can serve my Guru Maharaj, Narad Muni, eternally. That's all I want. I don't want any other benediction. And then he says, Naido Vijay Paradvarta. How does the verse go? Tadvira Gayan senior moment. Tadvira Gayan. Amrita Bhagna Chitta. So Chaita to Mukate. Maya Sakaya Bharam Udvati. Yes, that's the verse. So he's saying that I am happy. I don't need any benediction. My happiness comes from just meditating on you, glorifying you. But I'm unhappy to see so many of these living entities suffering in this material world because they have material desires, which will never make us happy. Never make us happy. Last night I asked, because we have all heard that simple analogy, even the children can understand. If you go down to the ocean, well, you're not close to the ocean here, but if you go to a river or a lake and you see some fish on the bank flopping around, right? And you think, what would make this fish happy? Now, a foolish person will think, oh, he must be hungry. Let me go get a nice dosa and idli and sambar and give him. So the fish may take one nibble, but he's still unhappy. He's flopping around. What's wrong with this guy? Okay, must be a poor fish. Here, take my ATM card. Go take as much money as you want. Still not happy. Ah, romance. Let me find you a nice girlfriend fish. Still not happy. So what would make the fish happy? Put him back in the water. Exactly. So any person with a little bit of intelligence can understand that. Put the fish back in the water and immediately happy. So we're all in this material world, we're like fish out of water. It doesn't matter what we get. You can get unlimited crores of rupees, you're still not happy, just like that Ambani brother. Practically unlimited wealthy, but lost it all because no spiritual values. So money will not buy happiness. We should know that. Don't spend your whole life chasing after money because in the end you won't be happy. What else do we do for happiness? We make relationships, especially the male-female relationship. So Papa tells a story that there were two men, they've been friends since childhood. And since childhood, every day they have to meet together for at least a couple of hours and chit-chat and what's going on. And like this throughout their whole life. So now they're old, 70s, like me, I'm 73. And they're still doing the same thing. Every day they get together and they chit-chat. So they came together one day and one friend saw that the other friend completely morose. So I asked him, what's wrong? No, come on, we've been friends for life. What's wrong? You can tell from me. You really want to know? Yes, tell me, what's wrong? He said, I just realized I've been married to my wife for 50 years. Every day I'm trying to make her happy, and she's still not happy. And vice versa. This is not a male against female thing. Same thing. The woman tries hard to make the husband happy, he's still not happy. So yes, we want satisfying personal relationships, but the most satisfying personal relationship is with Krishna. If we don't establish our natural satisfying relationship with God, with Krishna, then no other relationship is going to satisfy us. So Prahlad, he said that. I have my relationship with you. I can meditate on you wherever I am, under any circumstances. So Chaitato Vimukata 8 Maya Sakaya Bharam Udva, that verse, it says, I'm happy anywhere I am. And this applies to all of us. You can be happy anywhere. How? Put your hand in the bead bag. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Whether in happiness or distress, the goal is the same. Chant Hare Krishna. While we're chanting, there are two extreme tests that will come for sure. One extreme is everything is going wrong. Your health is bad. Your wife left you. The children are disrespectful. Your business is falling apart. Everything negative. But naturally, if one is a devotee, you take shelter of Bhagavan. Oh my Lord, things are going wrong. Please protect me. Please help me. The other extreme is when everything is going right. Everything you do produces more and more money. Everybody's happy at home, and people respect you, and everything seems to be wonderful. That's also an extreme test, and that test we generally fail until we become pure devotees. Generally, we fail that test because we're thinking everything is all right. I don't need to put my heart into chanting. I chant, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, but I'm thinking of my investments, and I'm thinking about, some other thing. I'm not really thinking about Krishna. And I saw that clearly when I first joined. There was one young man one of the brahmacharis, his parents died and left him a lot of money. A lot of money. So what did he do? Took off the neck beads, threw away the bead bag, and he was gone to enjoy the money. So about 10, 12 years later, I saw him, just by accident we ran into each other. I didn't even remember him because, after 10 years living in the material world, he was completely different. He said, don't you remember me? I was Bhakti so-and-so. He said, not only that, he said, you're the one who made me a devotee. I didn't even remember that. Apparently there was some home program I had gone to, just like last night we went to a home program. And I met him, he was one of the guests. And I spoke to him about Krishna consciousness, and that's what made him a devotee. I didn't even remember that. So what happened? He took that vast amount of money, equivalent to about $3 million in current US currency. He went out in the world, he married some non-devotee girl. They had 2 children, and within no time she divorced him and took all the money. So now he was morose, and in that morose state, came back to Krishna. Came back to Krishna. So don't let this happen to you. When things are good, take shelter of Krishna. When things are bad, take shelter of Krishna. In all circumstances, take shelter of Krishna. This is Prahlad's teaching to his demonic. Okay? So we'll stop here if anybody has any questions. Hare Krishna.
Very nice.
So hearing is not so good. After 50 years of ISKCON kirtans, hearing is not so good. Plus just natural old age.
So we also, as you rightly mentioned, the most difficult thing is train our mind to be in Krishna consciousness. So the moment we take out the outside our mind, even frustrates and we try to bring the mind back, because mind actually is programmed to be like devil's workshop inside. It's always programmed towards the negative side. So what should we do then to bring it back always? Other than chanting and getting the practice what we do. But that is only for what we can promote in the chanting. But more of the day, we have to always be in the positive frame of mind. So what should we do to ensure that we are always in the positive frame of mind for all this complex of the day?
Very good question. The chanting is a goal, the chanting is a means, the chanting is the answer to everything. But one has to chant with determination. The same determination, like I said last night, all of you here, I'm sure, how many of you have graduated university already? Almost all of you. So it took some determination. Maybe your friends were saying, hey, come on, let's go party. But you said, no, I have exams, I have to study. So it took some determination to get that degree. You have to be determined and fixed in your determination. You didn't allow anything to drag you away. So the same thing with chanting. Don't allow anything to drag you away. And your success is based on your determination. So when you realize that, then you become more and more determined. But determination is also contagious. If you associate with those who are very determined, those who are fixed up, those who chant good rounds every day, you associate with such persons, then naturally you start to pick up that mood. If you hang out with devotees who chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, and hey, remember when such and such, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, today I'm going to go to, that kind of chanting, it will take millions of years to come to perfection. So those kind of chanters, I call them japa terrorists. They're japa terrorists. They terrorize your japa. You're trying to chant, you're trying to fix your mind on hearing, and they keep interrupting. So It's your life. It's your spiritual life that's on the line. Don't allow anybody to terrorize, which means also you shouldn't be a japa terrorist. Don't terrorize other people's japa. Don't interrupt them unnecessarily. And this is one of the biggest japa terrorists. You're trying to chant your rounds, but you have the phone here. So you're chanting Hare Krishna, and you hear the ding, and you look to see you. So my recommendation, put it in silent mode, and better yet, leave it somewhere across the room, or leave it in your room somewhere while you're chanting. It only takes 2 hours to chant 16 nice rounds. So for 2 hours, don't allow any interruption, not by the phone, not by others, and not by your mind. So the mind interrupts in 2 ways. You're remembering things that you did in the past, or you're planning to do something in the future. So shut down both of those. As soon as your mind starts to take you to something you did, shut it off. Bring it back. Hare Krishna. Loud chanting. You should chant loudly. One time in London, I wasn't there, but Mukunda Maharaj, who I served with for many years, he told me the story. He was there. One devotee had to go to a dentist, and another devotee went with him. So they're waiting in the waiting room of the dentist's office, and the devotee who's going was going to be a serious dental operation, so he was afraid. So he's chanting, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And the other devotee says, don't chant so loud, you're disturbing. He said, no, what Prabhupada said we should chant loud. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So when after they went back to the temple, Prabhupada was there. So they went to Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, you said we should chant loud, but this other devotee is telling me not to chant loud. So Prabhupada said, yes, chant loud enough so you can hear yourself, but not so loud that you disturb others. Okay, something else? Yes, Hare Krishna.
मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि लास्ट का पॉइंट प्रहलाद महाराज की हम भगवान के जो होगा वो अच्छा है हम भगवान के लिए करेंगे देन जो बैड होगा वो भी हम भगवान के ऊपर आश करेंगे पर हम रियलाइज कैसे करें क्योंकि हमारे पास बहुत सारी चीजें हैं जब हमारा बुरा दिन आ जाता है और बैड थिंग्स आ जाते हैं तो हम भगवान को क्रिटिसाइज करते हैं तो किससे हम क्या
So you have to translate to English. But you understand English, you heard the class.
The question is we go through good times and bad times.
Yeah.
But when we have especially bad times, we try to criticize. So criticize them. That's the question.
That means they're not devotees. The devotee doesn't criticize Krishna. No. That means the neophyte devotee. See, the neophyte devotees, again, they want to use God. Om Jai Jagadishari, give me a house, give me a car, give me a beautiful, like that. Om Jai Jagat. That's trying to use God. And when God doesn't come through, then you criticize God. So that means very, very low level of devotion. What to speak of the demons? They don't accept any God. Or if there is a God, how can he let this happen to me? So that means demonic tendencies there. There's a nice story. There was one such H.G.Architha Bhakta. He went to the mandir and he prayed to the Lord. I am going on a business trip. If you allow me to be successful, whatever profit I make, I'll give you half. So he went on the trip, very successful. He's coming back to his village with a boat full of gold coins. But along the way, the storm came and he was worried about his money and the boat. Half of the money fell in the water, but he was able to save half. So then one day he went back to the mandir and the deity spoke to him. He said, you promised me that you go on the trip and whatever profit you made, you give me half. So he said, but you already took your half. So we shouldn't be like that. Don't make a deal with God and then break the deal. Whatever situation we're in, we have to give to Krishna. Because what are we giving anyway? Whatever we have belongs to Him. Temporarily we have a little control over it. But He gives and He can also take.
I'd just like to add to this question. So
the question is that how can a neophyte devotee like that come to that platform?
By hearing from advanced devotees. That's why our process begins with Shravana. You have to hear from the right source. All of us are materially inclined and still are to some degree. But by coming in contact with His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, gradually, by following the process as outlined by him, the material desires go down and the spiritual determination goes up.
True, like we have heard that a person in Krishna consciousness, he will be satisfied, he will be fulfilled, he will be happy. But like it comes to the theoretical, how the practical application of how this person will be practically,
How they will be?
like practically how they are fulfilled or not.
Yeah, but again, what is happiness? We try to be happy by material formulas, but happiness actually comes from the same source that everything comes from, Krishna. That's why Krishna is called the reservoir of pleasure. That little pamphlet entitled Krishna the Reservoir of Pleasure, that's what made me a devotee. I got that one little pamphlet. I think you have it in your language. And I know it's there in Hindi and Bengali. I'm not sure if you have it in your language, but so Krishna is the reservoir of pleasure. That's what we're being taught. That's what we're trying to be convinced about. If we're convinced that Krishna is actually the reservoir of pleasure, then we take shelter of Krishna instead of taking shelter of so many fallible soldiers. In the beginning of the second canto, Shukadeva Goswami speaks about that. Deha patra kalachadishu admasaineshu asatsupi. Tesham pramaded nidana asanapi nafasati. He says, persons who are devoid of Atma Tattva. What is Atma Tattva? Atma Tattva means spiritual knowledge culminating with the fact that Krishna is the supreme controller, is the source of everything, including pleasure. So persons who are devoid of Atma Tattva do not inquire into the problems of life, being too much attached to the fallible soldiers like the body, the children, and the wife. Although they're sufficiently experienced, they do not see their ultimate demise. Sufficiently experienced means every one of us, at least in my case, father is gone, which means obviously grandfather, great, they're all gone. But still, we're making plans to be happy. We don't realize that we're going to go also. So just like I mentioned earlier, one of my godbrothers, very, very dear godbrother, Charu, just died about a month ago. 3 went within like 1 week, Bhajanai like that. So we're all going. One day, this movement is going to be yours. It's going to belong to all of you young people. And that's why it's critical that you're trained in the Prabhupada method, because what are you going to do when ISKCON is handed to you and the last proper disciple is gone? What are you going to do with Prabhupada's movement? You have to know how to keep it going. What is the goal? How to achieve the goal? Don't water it down. Don't affiliate with some other group and start mixing things up. Keep things the way Prabhupada gave it to us. That's the whole point. And if you do that, part of that is being convinced that, yes, I want to be happy. That's natural. Nobody wants to be unhappy. But the real source of happiness is Krishna. So we're trained how to dovetail in the beginning our material desires with Krishna. Let's say I'm an artist. So I become trained how to make nice art that's Krishna conscious. I'm a scientist. I'm an engineer, whatever. If you can't directly use your experience in Krishna consciousness, then give the fruit to Krishna, or at least some of the fruit. So if you're a big businessman, Kurpati, you may not be able to use your business directly for Krishna, but give some of that fruit to Krishna, understanding that he's the one that made you successful. It's not by your big brain or big plans. No. Krishna gave and Krishna can take away.
And so I want to ask a question, that how is that those devotees who are coming in joining us, especially in the initial stage, they're having a faith on Srila Prabhupada is very different, and very less. So it has been found that some devotees are needing some other person which doesn't belong to Srila Prabhupada or this one, they have nothing to do with this one. So how exactly we can convince them that Srila Prabhupada or Srila Prabhupada gave is the ultimate? We don't need to look for any other thing. Even if it is from other sampradaya, just like a person is married to one woman and he should not look to other woman. So how can we have the same conviction? How exactly we can convince them?
You're asking how can you have the conviction or how can you convince others? So first of all, you have to have the conviction. Are you convinced? One time Prophet said to his leading devotees, they were at Mayapur, GBC meeting. He said, are you convinced? They didn't know what Prophet was talking about. So again he said, are you convinced? And they were, look, what is Prophet asking? Third time, are you convinced? And then finally said, are you convinced that Krishna is God? Are you convinced? So ask yourself, are you really convinced that Krishna is God? And the proof is that you will surrender to Krishna and you will serve Krishna exclusively. So We don't claim to have the power to convince anyone. We give them the knowledge that we got, and then it's up to Krishna, it's Chaitya Guru, to take it from there. We don't claim to have the potency to convince anyone, but we set the example. If you set the example that you're only reading books of Prabhupada, books that are authorized in ISKCON, that's the best you can do. In the 5th canto, when Rishabhdev is preaching to his 100 sons, he says, the king, the father, and the guru should give good instructions to the citizens, the offspring, and the disciples. If the citizens, the children, the disciples don't follow properly, he said, don't get angry, just keep giving good instruction. So that's the best you can do. You give somebody good instruction, they may not immediately take it. But don't get upset, because it's not up to you. Just keep giving the good instruction, and then we'll see what happens. Hare Krishna. Well, you had a question, and is there anybody who didn't ask a question who would like to ask? Yes? Okay. Let's give him a chance. Hare Krishna.
Very happy to see both sides.
Hare Krishna.
I always had this regret in my heart. When I connected to people here, I connected to this temple. So I attracted to Prabhupada deeply a lot. But still, after getting connected to Krishna consciousness, I had that regret. I couldn't see Prabhupada live. But then after seeing Prabhupada Disciples Association and hearing from Prabhupada disciples, I think that all of us is being fulfilled. I'm very happy and grateful. And so coming to my doubt, when we preach people, it is also told that the material clarification or material knowledge which they are having. So when we tell to people, it is quite helpful to attract them to Krishna consciousness. But in my experience, I mean, whatever I have seen till now, I'm practically seeing that was not quite successful in teaching to people. So what is your answer for this problem? Is it really helpful?
Good question. The first thing is never think that you're preaching. One time one of Prabhupada's disciples said to Prabhupada, sometimes when I'm preaching, and Prabhupada immediately said, you're not preaching, I'm preaching and you're assisting me. So you should always feel like that. You're an assistant. We go out on behalf of Guru. In my case, it's Srila Prabhupada. In your case, it may be a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. And whatever success you have, you give to the Guru. It's not yours. It's just like Prabhupada used to compare the postman, postal peon. Doesn't matter what you give him. You give him a letter, angry letter to somebody, or you give him a nice letter, or you give him 1 crore rupees in the envelope. His job is just to deliver it. And therefore, if there's something wrong, the person who gets it, they don't like what's in the envelope, it's not his fault. All he did was deliver. So we should feel like that. Then we have no anxiety. I'm just delivering the message on behalf of my Guru. And if some people will take right away, that's called the ripe fruit. So when we go out to preach or share, we should look for the ripe fruit. Those who are ripe enough to be immediately attracted. And then there are those who are not yet ripe. The green mango, ripe mango, they're both mangoes. But when we go out, we want to pick the right mango first. Of course, you can pick the green mango and make achar, but so when you go out to share Krishna consciousness, try to find those who are more interested. Don't be so. This is a mistake we made in the beginning. We thought we were preachers, and we would get into big arguments with Christians because they would come and say, this is not the right way, Jesus is the way, and then we would have 1 hour argument with no results, because the guy is not going to take the book. He just wants to fight with you. So we begin smart enough. If you go out and somebody is in an oppositional mood, just say, if they're a Christian, you say, pray for me, and I'll pray for you. Hare Krishna. Go on to next person. Don't get hung up thinking that I'm a preacher and I have to convince them. No, it's not like that. Prabhupada said, what is the use of your 3-minute preaching? Get them to buy my book, because my book will convince them. See? And Prabhupada's books are so potent. Sometimes somebody buys so many stories I can tell you. Not stories, fact. Just one quickly. Whenever I travel, I always like to ask devotees, how did you come to Krishna consciousness? So there was this one young man in America from a very, very wealthy family. So the mother had bought one Bhagavad Gita, but she never read it. She just bought it and left it on the shelf. So when he was growing up, he would occasionally open the book and read it. So by the time he was ready to graduate from high school, he was practically already a devotee. So the parents asked him, now you've graduated, we're happy, we'll give you a trip anywhere you want to go. Where do you want to go? So he said, I want to go to London. They asked him, why London? He said, because I've read that the best Hare Krishna restaurant is in Soho Street, London. So they had to buy him a ticket. So he went to London, went to Govinda's in Soho Street Temple, and when he came back, he became a devotee. So these books are so potent. Even if somebody doesn't read immediately and become a devotee immediately, somebody in the family will read it. So many cases I could tell you. So our job is just like the postman. Just go out and give the book. And if somebody's interested to ask good questions, yes, you can respond. But we're not out there to preach, give a Bhagavatam class. Our job when we go out is to get people to take Bhagavad Gita as it is. Srimad Bhagavatam as it is. Not any other Bhagavatam. Chaitanya Charitamrita as it is. We want to give proper books. Because those books have been empowered to make devotees. Okay? Hare Krishna. Rantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhaktavinda ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna.
Like to thank Prabhu
No, next one.
for such a wonderful discourse through the day. Very nicely described about the teachings of Prabhupada, how the devotee should be strictly dedicated to Prabhupada.
Yeah, put it in.
How we can increase our attachment to Srila Prabhupada. And many more practical tips on how we can improve the quality of the path, how we should go nicely circle to authority. So for these wonderful points and for the valuable information, we would like to thank Prabhu for one time. Hare Krishna Mahamantra.